everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I hope you all are doing okay today. This is a patron appreciation episode. So as typical, this is for the patrons. At the end of this video will be uploaded, and this video will go essentially private for patrons. If you want to see this, you support the content, even $1. We flatten the patron things, and even through PayPal, we can give a link to the other videos. So, Mrs. Thomas is here today. I wasn't sure if Mrs. Thomas was going to make it. This is my wife, Mrs. Thomas. She's not feeling well. She's under the weather. And it's only through the power of modern pharmacology that she's sitting right here today. So, if she's not, doing her vibrant thing that
not my usual level of energy,
and if I'm doing a lot of man talking, like
mansplaining,
man talking, that's probably why. All right, so how are you doing today?
You just told everyone I was under the weather.
Well, I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about
mentally.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about like my spiritual beliefs?
Are you all together there?
I'm all together here. I don't feel the best, but my brain is functioning
that's all I need right now.
Well as it can be.
A little bit of energy and a functioning brain. Good. All right. So, anything you want to say before we start?
No, you did the spiel already. Hello, welcome. We've already got some people here, so.
All right.
I think that's it. We're gonna get started.
So,
topic number one.
Topic number one: Bernie Sanders versus The View. I've been trying to figure out what to call this, and I've settled on Bernie Sanders versus The View. Now, I call it this because Bernie Sanders goes on to The View and he struggles. It's like a fish trying to swim upstream to get his talking points of his platform out. And instead, what he finds is one odd framed question after the next that hits him in the knees. And when he pulls himself out of the dirt, there's another question that hit him in the knees. He does his best. He struggles through. It is Bernie Sanders, after all. He's, 70-some years old. He's been doing this for years. But it looked bad. Like, it just looked bad. You saw parts of the video that I'm talking about. Yeah. Is it just me? Am I like... Because, it's objective reality. I like Sanders. But it seems like the questions were framed in a way that didn't allow him to make his case.
Well, I'm biased as well, so I might not be the best person to ask. But we were going through the video and writing the topics down, and every topic that he wrote down, I was like, okay, so at what point did he talk about politics or his platform? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everything that they asked him about was kind of asinine stuff, like, what do you say to people saying you're too old? And it's like... Okay, are we going to talk about anything that's actually relevant? So, I do agree with you.
That particular argument feels gross to me. Like, of all the arguments that you make any argument you want to make. He's too old. Yeah, he's a geriatric. And it seems like it would be more so on, are the powers of the individual up to doing the task? Right there. Now, if you want to say that Bernie Sanders is not up to it, I saw an extraordinarily vigorous man, one Bernie Sanders, give an amazing, rousing speech. And not just that, Sanders has been hopping around the country for the past 2 years nonstop, meaning he never stopped campaign mode. So this is
why we kind of knew that what took him so long to announce his run for 2020. Because it was like, what have you been doing if not preparing to run again in 2020?
He knew.
But I actually saw him running around and doing speeches. I saw him playing basketball in the video, and I was like,
I did see that.
That man is spry right there. I know he's 77.
And then he saved a woman. Did you see that?
I didn't see where he saved a woman, like out of a tree, like a cat.
No. I think she was going to get hit by a bus or something. And he pulled her out the way.
Staged.
That wasn't staged. No.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying.
It took place, and he just kind of walked away like he didn't say anything. It's kind of like Batman.
Fucking Batman.
Like Batman. I have a question that I want to ask later today. Is Bernie Sanders Batman?
Really?
Yeah. I know this sounds...
I haven't seen his utility belt.
It sounds completely ridiculous when you say it, but there's an argument to it. Like, there's a line of thought that goes along with it that ends up with that thought. But that thought, it's kind of like what is it, Brownian's Law or something like that. I can't think of the name of it exactly, but it's like this intermesh reality. Like it's intermeshed within reality. You just got to pull the right thread so you can see it. It's like if you turn it the right way, it comes out, and it's like, oh, there it is. It's like you put ink in wax and you spin it, and then wax goes. I'm making the point that the Bernie Sanders Batman question is kind of like that.
Okay, we're gonna come to that later.
It doesn't sound right off the bat, but when you pull a thread on this issue of right and wrong, and how do you determine what's right and wrong?
I feel like this is comparable to the segment that you did asking, is H.A. Goodman Thanos?
It is.
Which, by the way, was my comparison. Because you were saying then was H.A. Goodman Batman. And I was like, no, Batman, yeah. He's more like Thanos, if anything.
Somebody else gave a better one during the show, but I can't think of the name of it. But
I have to go back to that. This is way off topic. Is that on your list of topics?
I wanted to be on my list of topics. It depends on whether or not you're still upright and conscious.
We'll see how long this goes.
Yeah. right.
If we can talk about Bernie Sanders being Batman, I'll see if I have enough gusto to stay.
It's a good argument. I think it's a good argument.
All right. So what we do have on topic. Also, by the way, can I just mention?
I'm writing that in.
Okay, you're writing that in as the last topic. Can I just also say that we didn't get any patron suggestions for topics today. So don't forget, if you're a patron, once we put the announcement for today's showtime, go into that announcement and list what you'd like to see discussed for today's show. Because if not, we end up with stuff like, is Bernie Sanders Batman?
That Bernie Sanders Batman one is going to be fire, man.
Okay, we'll get to that. Or you might get to that.
I mean,
that'll be discussed today by someone, either you or us.
We can do that now if you like. But I think that one is absolutely fucking fire.
All right, we'll get to that.
It's a good one. All right, so Bernie Sanders versus The View. So let's go to this one. Like I said, I was not impressed with the level of questions that were being asked on this channel.
Can I just say that this is The View?
I don't care.
You know what I mean? Like, this is...
I mean, but it's like, this is going to all of these housewives that's sitting at home, all of the geriatrics that's sitting at home, all of the people who don't have jobs are sitting there watching this channel, many of which, there's some masculine men that are built into this that's watching that wouldn't necessarily acknowledge that they were watching it. But, you know, a lot of people watch the show. This would have been an awesome time for Bernie Sanders to inject his message into the mainstream. And instead, you get these ridiculous questions about, what did you do about the sexual harassment? That's not a ridiculous question, women. Just saying.
Okay.
But at the point where it's asked 1,000 times, then it becomes okay. You know, it's like you didn't hear his answer the last 20,000 times, and is there anything else you want to answer? Ask Bernie Sanders?
That's what people want to know. But like I said, this isn't a political show. This is The View. Somebody just said they don't watch The View. It's for other people, not for us. I don't know what that means.
Those other people's votes. They vote. They vote. They go out and they pull a lever.
We don't watch The View, and you might not watch The View.
But people do watch.
But there are a lot of people that are watching.
Yes.
Or else he wouldn't have been on there.
Right.
Bernie Sanders wouldn't have gone.
Bernie Sanders wouldn't have wasted
if it wasn't
his time.
going to see some people.
If it wasn't.
I mean, if people were going to see
keep in mind, each of us have our own little subsets. Like, you know, there is no absolute reality per se. Mainstream media keeps kind of like a thread of that keeps everybody attuned to one particular source per se, and you know, the people diverge from that. But there's no, you know, everybody has their own subsets, their own little bubbles. Some people play chess, so those people end up in a little chess huddle, and they may talk, you know, negotiate amongst themselves. They may go outside their bubble a little bit, but for the most part, that's how they accrue around each other. Other people, you know, larger demographics of black, white. I wager that they break down these demographics on who they're trying to reach with these various outlets. So he's not there as happenstance.
Well, we know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's strategic. You know, he's not going to only go on political shows. He's trying to reach those housewives and those geriatrics that you talked about that are at home watching The View. But when he goes on shows that are not political, you end up with this where they're not talking about anything political.
I asked Tulsi to come on this show.
But like, okay, so wait, let me just say, The View reminds me of like, this is going to sound really, really bad. But like when you said housewives, like
some racist.
No, not racist, but like the women that like sitting home watching soap operas and stuff like that. And this kind of goes in line with that. Like, what do they usually talk about on The View? Is not politics now.
But they get really political on The View. Like, the thing is, The View, every so often The View gets these explosive episodes where like they get overtly political. They hate Donald Trump's guts. Like, so right off the bat, it's very clear. And the fact that they're talking about Trump and all this other stuff gets across this idea that they do get political on the video. Huntsman, Abby Huntsman, that's John Huntsman's daughter. John
The
Huntsman,
Huntsman, like from the
no,
movie?
no.
That was a good movie.
No. It was alright.
Not The Huntsman.
No, he's a politician. He was like the governor of, I forget the state.
Okay.
They get political. Joy Behar gets political. All of them get political.
I feel you. Okay, I guess
and
what I'm saying
Meghan
is
McCain is John McCain's daughter.
I feel you. I guess I'm just saying that this is a different level. This is a different arena.
Dumbed down.
Okay, that's... Ooh.
Is that the word you're looking for?
No, I was not going to say dumb down.
Fuck it, I own it.
Okay, you stick with that, buddy.
I own it. Tweet me at Jamarl Thomas. That's where I find it. I mean, I asked Tulsi Gabbard to come on my show. And I asked her, they said, you know, what do you want to talk about with Tulsi Gabbard? And I said, you know, I don't want to have these basic conversations that we always have. Like this question of, you know, hey, you said you were really vigorously anti-gay at one point. I mean, what do you want to do now to make people feel... Every interview that Tulsi Gabbard gets hits that exact question, including the thing on Modi and stuff like that. I don't want to ask that. Other people can ask that. I asked her more of a philosophical question on this idea of, you know, war and peace. Like, if the United States pulls back from where the United States is, does the United States worry about other countries filling this gap that the United States left? And not just filling the gap. Filling the gap with good reason, because it doesn't necessarily know whether the United States is going to have a certain resurgence with regards to this military. The political affairs can change. I asked that question for a particular reason. The world isn't built on this thing of good and bad. And if you're going to make an argument about pulling back in military, I would make those arguments that, you know, we're killing people. I don't necessarily like the point that we're killing people. But there are geostrategic things that they need to pay attention to, and other countries that may not necessarily have the best of intentions. And do you run a risk of those countries gaining a certain, what's the word, resurgence within the world itself? How do you justify it from a philosophical standpoint in this case? Because it's not as simple as, let's just pull back and fold our hands. It's not like other countries aren't necessarily having their own interests in doing the things that we're doing.
We're going to talk about Tulsi.
Yeah, that's another one. I'm just saying from the standpoint of framing a question, it gives you a little bit more a window into the person, as opposed to, hey, Bernie Sanders, what are you going to do with the sexual harassment stuff? That's not all that good. Hey, Bernie Sanders, why do you think Hillary Clinton lost? Did you get Hillary Clinton's advice? Hey, Bernie Sanders, why didn't he get out of the race in 2016? They said you're dogging Hillary. Hey, Bernie Sanders, black people don't like you.
Let's go to the clip. Let's watch a little bit of it.
All right, let's watch it. I mean, I found this to be somewhat brutal. I've been monkeying around with my thing.
Monkeying around? Okay, buddy.
Let's get close. All right, there we go. All right, so, I'll just go to the other display. Fuck it. Bernie Sanders on The View. I have a few of these, so I'm going to go through these rather quickly, but one or two of these I want to hear the answer, because he makes the best out of a bad situation.
A big reason why Hillary lost, because of your criticism of her before the general election and your refusal to concede. Even when it looked like you wouldn't get the nomination, you wouldn't pull out. How do you answer claims that you splintered the party and put Trump in the White House, and God forbid you could do it again in 2020?
Well, that's those.
God forbid you can do it again in 2020. Hey, Hillary Clinton is not running in this election, so fair enough.
Wait, it ain't over yet.
Well, she said she's not. Yeah, she said she's not. She doesn't want to keep getting hit in the face over and over again. But beyond that point, though, what does she mean that you can do it again? What does that mean? Because Bernie Sanders is in a race that Bernie Sanders is going to automatically make them, if somebody else wins, he's going to make them lose in a general? What the hell does that mean? What is the point of a primary? What is the point of a primary? Am I fundamentally missing misunderstanding the intent and purpose of a primary?
I don't believe so.
Then what the hell is she talking about?
Is she missing the purpose of a primary?
It seems that she is. The point of a primary is that you have various factions in political parties. And those political factions war it out to figure out who wins. Bernie Sanders was not the reason Hillary Clinton lost. Hillary Clinton was the reason Hillary Clinton lost. The idea that she's bringing this shit up in and of itself. What other question could she have asked Bernie Sanders in this case? I mean, think of all the things that you can ask Bernie Sanders. And this is the thing, the first question that she needs to ask Bernie Sanders. I'm just saying, that's a ridiculous question. Am I missing something?
They're all that way. We're going to look at another one.
All right, let's look at another one. So
we'll keep it short. People are saying they don't want to be tortured and watch The View. We get it. We're just trying to show you.
Fuck that. You're going to be tortured.
Patrick Seguin very quickly says, much love to you both. I need my other thyroid removed. Oh, no, Patrick. I hope you're well soon. I think he said he need his other thyroid removed. Sorry. Yeah.
That sucks. Surgeries suck. I've had more than I can count.
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
I was the first member of Congress to take Americans over the Canadian border, people in my own state of Vermont, to get prescription drugs in Montreal that were 1/10 the price they were paying in Vermont. Okay, today millions of people.
But I have another rude question. Sorry. Here's the rude question. You started it all. You were brilliant. I agree. I loved you in the last go round.
You don't love me anymore?
I do. I still love you. Apologies
Her
to your
dog
wife
is
who's
named
sitting
Bernie.
I named my dog after you. That's really love. But what I'm saying is, yes, you came up with all these brilliant ideas. What do you say to people who say, okay, Bernie, and I'm your same age as you.
You look much younger.
I do. But I do. What do you say to people? You're too old. Let the younger person now.
Old.
Why is that okay?
Well, she prefaced it and said, I have another rude question.
Again, and I asked this basic thing, of all the questions that you could ask Bernie Sanders, is this the question that you need to ask Bernie Sanders? Are you too old? You're an old guy, Sanders. Why not let somebody else do it? Let's go to another one real quick. It's not going to be brutal. We'll be fast. 7:50.
Patrick Scarpati says, happy Sunday. Hey, Patrick.
Happy Sunday back at you, Patrick.
Any advice from her?
I think not. You think not? Look, I think every Democrat is going to come together. And let me say what I've said before. I hope to be the Democratic nominee and have the support of the whole Democratic Party behind me. If I am not, and somebody else is, I will support that candidate. Because what's most important is that Trump be defeated. But, Hillary and I have fundamental differences, and that's...
It does seem like the president wants to run against you, though. He calls you Crazy Bernie. He thinks it could be an easy win for him, that you would not capture the middle of the country enough.
I'm not so sure, Abby.
I like that little finger, that little finger wiggle. I'm not too sure about that.
In this short time period, why haven't you pulled out? Some people say you're responsible. I know that sounds nasty, right? Why didn't you pull out? Why do people hold you responsible for losing for Hillary Clinton? What do you say to those people? Why you, Sanders? We admit that, yeah, you were pushing these policies, but you're too old, you're geriatric. Did you look for Clinton's advice on this? And they're calling you Crazy Bernie, and they, it's like, this seems bad. This doesn't seem like a good interview.
So did we miss the points where they asked actual platform, or?
They weren't really platform questions. I mean, there might have been one stuff, but it's stuffed and hidden into all of this nonsense. I can't believe they did this. Like, yes, I don't know if they have, in 950, they go straight to the sexual assault. There is no energy in this. He does his best to get his platform up.
And sexual assault harassment allegations against top male campaign staffers. You've addressed it. You said it won't happen again, and that obviously you're busy. Meg and I have been in campaigns. We understand, the candidate is not where everybody is all the time. Have you gotten rid of all of the top male staffers that have been accused, and what are you doing more specifically?
I believe we have, to answer your question. And second of all, when I ran for re-election in Vermont, just in 2018, we established, I think, the strongest protocol against sexual harassment.
That wasn't a terrible question.
I don't think that was a terrible question. Maybe because I inhale news, so I'm always watching this. I've seen him answer that question so many times with the exact same answer. So for me, it's like he's being asked the same thing over and over again. That's my only issue with the question, but otherwise it's not a bad question.
Unbelievably abusive. You yelled during meetings. You were a...
Here's another one. So they go from, what are you doing about the sexual assaults that happened in your campaign, Sanders? And then from that, they go to, hey, there was one article with an anonymous person that said you were unbelievably abusive. What do you have to say about that, Sanders? It's like one random article.
Is this like Klobuchar?
Klobuchar, yeah. That's her point. She's trying to say that, you know, women are being accused of being abusive because they're women and men are getting away with it. That's her point.
And we have very strong safeguards
to work with, but there have Senator Amy Klobuchar is getting a lot of heat for being a tough boss and difficult to work with, but there have actually been a lot of stories about you being a tough boss. In 2015, the Vermont paper 7 Days wrote an article quoting staffers saying you were unbelievably abusive, you yelled during meetings, you were a... Why do you think that those kind of stories weren't getting as much attention as Senator Klobuchar's is?
Because I don't think in that particular story in one Vermont newspaper had my name attached to it of anybody who said, look, I have
the Des Moines Register asked you questions about it as well, though, because you said, yes, I do demand.
Okay. But there wasn't one person who put their name on it. I have been in public life for, 30 years.
I love his look after she asked that question.
Well, the problem here is it's like, hey, Sanders, how often do you beat your wife? Now, the moment that you say, I don't beat my wife, you're still having a conversation about beating your wife. These questions, like the framing of the questions takes all the energy out of the person. There's no way for him to answer anything from the standpoint of this is what I'm trying to do for the country. He did get it in for a few points. Don't get me wrong. He was able to pivot on some of this. But there's nowhere to go with this question. Hey, a random newspaper said that you beat, you're unbelievably abusive to your staff, Sanders.
You're screaming in a meeting.
It's like, what do you have to say about that, Sanders? It was one newspaper. That looks bad. Right there. The moment that you have to do that, it looks bad. There's no good answer for that. It's like you're playing blackjack. And there's some hands it's like, okay, that's a forced loss. There's no way to go with that. Even playing in your best hand, it's still a loss. That's what that is. Even playing on your best hand, given the best political casting, it's still to some degree a loss because you're not talking about your platform and you're talking about being abusive to your staff. Like, God, I hate this interview. Let's two more, and we'll be done with this. But God, I hate this interview. Reparations. Oh yeah, let's go to that one. That's a good one. That's a good one. I understand the argument for reparations, and I've made videos saying that reparations are right. I agree with the premise of it. It is impossible for you to make that argument and win in the general election. Just saying. Asking Bernie Sanders this question is not necessarily a bad question, but it's a question that he can never say yes to.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders is not running for one specific race. And if you had public support where you had a majority of the white population that was on board for it, fair enough. Whites aren't on board for it. Not just not on board for it, we use that as somewhat of an attacking point and a rally cry in order to make sure Sanders lose, or whoever says yes on that, even if it's undefined of what that means, if that makes sense. Like, even if it's not, because in their worst head, they're going to give these poor people a check that don't deserve it, and slavery happened all those years ago, and they should get over it. Those type of arguments. I'm sorry, even people who are calling themselves Democrats. So, it's not that I disagree with it. I agree with it completely. The issue is politics. But Sanders is asked this question. He's been asked this question multiple times. Because I'm going to ask you questions about this one. Somebody else got mad.
We're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, the last time you ran, your poll numbers with African Americans were quite low. And you also don't support...
Just to put a knife in this one immediately, recently CNN did a news poll from the standpoint of favorability of Bernie Sanders among African Americans. Look at this. Non-whites is higher than whites. That doesn't look like unfavorability among African Americans. What the hell are you talking about? Are they trying to sandbag him in this interview? Are they trying to sandbag Bernie Sanders? Is that what's going on?
Maybe politely.
Yeah, but for fuck's sake. I mean, this is, this poll is not, this is a CNN news poll. This is not something secret. It just seems like they're doing their best to put a knife in him.
Reparations for slave descendants. Why do you think your poll numbers are low, and why don't you support reparations?
Well, first of all, our poll numbers are not low. I think if you look at polls in the last 6 months, they're quite high among the African American community.
Okay.
And even in 2016, we...
But did she not know that before she asked that question? Like, ultimately, in an interview, you never ask a question that you don't know, right? That's supposed to be the rule. Like, you don't ask something that you don't have information on. Did she not know that when she asked that question? I mean, I'm bothered by some of this because it seems like they're intentionally trying to put a knife in.
You're not surprised at this, are you?
A little bit, maybe. I mean, I thought Joy Behar, she named her dog Bernie Sanders.
Well, fuck, what she named her dog? Who running the View?
I'm just a little shocked by this. That's all. Maybe these very what's the word I'm looking for? Nice women. That seems perfectly otherwise nice. Is it possible they blame him secretly? In which case they want to
blame him for what?
Hillary Clinton losing.
It's possible, which is why I'm like, I don't.
Maybe I'm being cynical.
This doesn't really shock me per se.
They had him on, and the entirety of this interview was, and just to put a finer point on this, look at this. This point in the video, I didn't even see this, but this was the promo for the Bernie Sanders interview.
Before you click on that, I just want to acknowledge we got a super chat from Amir Farior. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but he says that many blacks are anti-Bernie now because of this. I don't know. Let's go to the clip.
So, wait, before we go to the other part. One of my, I know there's a person that does videos. She made this point that Bernie Sanders' response to this was anti-black. And I was like, you are insane. Like, you could say that, you don't necessarily like it, but saying anti-black is somewhat insane. I would say, making a policy that criminalizes one drug at a higher rate because, whites use one and blacks use the other. I would say that's somewhat anti-black when you know the outcome of it is going to be a particular thing. I would say Nixon criminalizing marijuana, trying to lock up blacks and hippies. I would say that's anti-black. There's a lot of things I would say anti-black. Bernie Sanders' answer to this question is not one of them. And just so you could answer the question, I don't want you to entirely take my word for it, even though you're my white. And
it's not about me taking your word. It's about them.
All right, 15. And some people said that, he said it, he answered it in an inelegant way. I don't fully get the problem with this answer. Especially since the way she asked the question, he's responded to the way she asked it.
Back with Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, the last time you ran, your poll numbers with African Americans were quite low. And you also don't support reparations for slave descendants. Why do you think your poll numbers are low, and why don't you support reparations?
Well, first of all, our poll numbers are not low. I think if you look at polls in the last 6 months, they're quite high among the African American community.
Okay.
And even in 2016, we ended up winning by good margins votes from younger African Americans and Latinos and whites. We did very well among younger African Americans. Look, I happen to believe that at a time of tremendous disparity, the wealth gap, for example, between the white community and the black community is like 10 to 1. Health disparities are terrible. Environmental disparities are terrible. Flint, Michigan comes to mind.
Yeah.
So I think what we have got to do is pay attention to distressed communities, black communities, Latino communities, and white communities all over this country. And as president, I pledge to do that.
Why not support reparations then?
What do you mean by reparations?
By reparations for slave defendants.
I know, but what does that mean exactly?
Money.
Well, I think that right now our job is to address the crises facing the American people and our communities. And I think there are better ways to do that than just writing out a check.
Can I get your take on?
Now, people take issue with the writing out a check part, but she asked them money. He says, what do you mean? She says, what do you mean? She's like, what do you mean? What does reparations mean? She says, money. And he says, I think we can do more than writing out a check. Writing out a check is the objective of what he was talking in pure response to her saying money, and his response is writing out a check. I don't see what's wrong with that answer. It is impossible for Bernie Sanders to support reparations. And mark my words, if they're using this as a political hit point, meaning if Democrats are going to get to the point of saying, how can we stop Sanders? And they use the Hail Mary pass of reparations. You thought people were alienated by Hillary Clinton hugging every black person that she can find in order to get through the primary for Bernie Sanders. Wait till you get, alienating whites in a general election. Wait till you do something like saying, yes, I'm on board for reparations. You are going to lose. Mark my words. Any of the Democrats that are pushing this, when they get to the general election, they're going to lose. Their understanding or their model of what they think the society will bear, I think it's not on point. And look, I could be wrong on this. I have a preconception based on my own experiences with human beings.
Can I read a super chat from Trudy?
Go for it.
Trudy says the reason so many have entered the race is to prevent Bernie from winning the first round at the convention. Maybe some losers will throw their delegates to him. She also says she's glad we're feeling better. Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you, Trudy. I think you're right, Trudy. I think it's two things. I think they think Donald Trump is completely beatable, meaning I think they think he's a weak president. Like he barely got into office in the first time against Hillary Clinton. And so this time around, they think if you have somebody else who's less worse, then, the public, even if the public doesn't like him, the public still may choose him. But yeah, Trudy, I think you're right about the second round thing, because, the superdelegates haven't gone anywhere. I was on this channel bitching and moaning that the superdelegates haven't gone anywhere while people were out there chest thumping and celebrating.
Nothing happened.
Well, something did happen. I mean, they did change it, but the change is just for the first round. The second round, the superdelegates are back and forth. They can go anywhere they want. You could have a situation where Sanders kicks ass through the entire process, and then the superdelegates push it to the other person in the next round. So, yeah. I'm just saying, I agree with you on that, Trudy. I totally agree with you on that. I think part of the reason they're in the race like that is to force a second round vote. But I don't necessarily know if all the Democrats kind of cobble together and kind of make that choice. Maybe, maybe not. But that does seem to be the case. So, but I don't see anything wrong with that answer. And I understand, I don't see anything wrong with that answer. I don't, it's like you can't support something that the politics are not going to bear. Like, what is this, like, what does it mean to support a particular thing that you know that is going to make you lose? I don't, I would wager, I would love to see a poll on whites and reparations. And I'm saying that because, you can get the black vote in that case, but if you get whites that are punitively voting against you, that's dramatically worse. Yeah. Not to mention, what Sanders is talking about is not necessarily horrible. It's not reparations, don't get me wrong. But it will be an outsized influence on the bottom end of the economic scale, which means African Americans are benefited greater by those things. Healthcare, education, getting rid of school debt, all of those things are beneficial to the bottom end of the economic scale. Federal jobs guarantee, again, job if you need it. I'm not against that platform by any means, a degree.
We have another clip? One more?
No. Oh, yeah, there's one more. So, I didn't see the promo. So, the promo for this show was horrendous. And it gives some idea on what the show was going to be about. Look at this.
Plus,
together we can defeat Donald Trump.
Presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders is live on The View to take on the controversies casting a shadow over his campaign and critics who say he's blowing up his party and handing President Trump 4 more years.
So, what the hell is that?
It's already.
What the hell kind of promo is
That tells it all. We could have just watched that and just skipped the other segments.
There are no controversies. Like, what are they talking about? There are no controversies. They just said that out of whole cloth. And then they just sat here and just sandbagged him with all of the other stuff.
With the controversies. Those are the controversies. Him being old.
Those weren't controversies. You're too old, Bernie. That's a controversy.
That's the controversy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Even the reparations thing was supposedly a controversy. The unbelievably abusive, that's a controversy. But that was like one article somewhere that they found. Did you get cleansed advice? Why didn't you pull out the race in 2016? What the fuck kind of interview is this?
This is The View.
That sucked. That sucked. That was painful. I appreciate you guys sharing our pain.
Somebody left. They were like, I'm not watching The View.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, any comments on that? Any comments at all?
Nah. I wouldn't expect a great interview to come from The View, so I'm not entirely shocked. But the promo that you just showed kind of explained it all. I mean, we didn't even have to watch the little clips. That's it.
He did a good job. You know, did the best that you could. How often did you beat your wife, Bernie Sanders? Well, I don't really put my hands on Jane. But there was an article somewhere that said, you know...
Don't really put your hands on Jane.
Yeah, I don't, you know, only for sexual activity.
Let's stop bringing that up as an example, because that's going to start getting around.
Well, the beat your wife thing is just a known thing people use. It's like, how do you beat your wife? It's a smearing tactic. It's like you have to dig yourself out to smearing before you can even get to the point of making your argument.
Okay. 2 super chats I want to read really quickly, just from Gary Curtis. Thank you, Gary. Gary says, I believe that if the Democratic Party cheat Bernie again, the young people in this country will revolt. And then there's
that's interesting. Wait. Do you think so?
That the young people will revolt?
I mean, there were a lot of people who were ejected out of the party after that last election because they felt Sanders was cheated. And Sanders,
I hope so,
was screaming to get those people back. In fact,
there's another super chat from Meditating Jesus. Meditating Jesus didn't leave any text, but just a donation. So thank you, Meditating Jesus.
All right, so I want to show you something. This clip is mind-blowing to me, utterly mind-blowing to me. My wife says, you know, I'm overdramatic and that I find mind-blowingness in very small things. That's a new word.
If 10 things a day are mind-blowing, are they all really mind-blowing?
But they are. I mean, just, you know, all right, we can dig into that.
Let's not.
Just being...
Go to the clip. Roll that beautiful being footage.
Just being alive.
What is that from?
I don't know, babe. Just being...
Okay.
Oh, I know. Actually, I do know what that is. I know what that is. Just being alive. I mean, think of the technology necessary. Somebody had to figure out how to mill this. Somebody had to write some level of instructions, meaning even the alphabet itself, going back, is necessary in order to put all of this stuff together in order to make a mic. Same thing with that. Even breathing. The arrangement of your body, the fact that you have a body at all. All of this stuff is fucking mind-blowing. But you get used to it. You get familiar. And so because you get familiar with it, it doesn't seem mind-blowing in those ways. Now, me personally, I get mind blown more so over concepts, if that makes sense. Like this kind of
I thought you said you weren't gonna mansplain. Is this mansplaining?
No, I said I was gonna man talk.
This is definitely man talking.
I said I was gonna man talk because you weren't feeling well. You were on pharmaceuticals. Let's
spare me.
This is mind blowing to me. This man has jumped around the country, getting applause, feel the burn. You know, blowing out stadiums like 20,000, 30,000 people. And then he loses the primary. Cheated. Completely cheated. He knows he's cheated. Completely knows he's cheated. Donna Brazile called him and said, Bernie Sanders, I found the cancer. And yet, he still gets out here and does this.
Immediately, right now, we have got to defeat Donald Trump. And we have got to elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine.
That goes on for a minute. That's sustained booing for an entire minute. That is amazing. That place is filled to the hill,
Brothers
and
and
all of them
sisters.
are booing at
So
it.
potentially these will be the people that will revolt.
I mean, the question becomes, did those people revolt in the last election, to be honest? I mean, more people who were supporting Sanders voted for Clinton than, people who were supporting Clinton voted Obama. So, most of the people voted for it, but of course there was going to be some groups like myself who said, fuck it, I can't do it. I can't shame myself to go in and put that level for Clinton after she cheated. There has to be some level of standards that we apply in society. Otherwise, it goes to the gills.
Can I just stop you and read a super chat?
Go for it.
Black Privilege, thank you, Black Privilege, says, I think authenticity is going to be the biggest issue in 2020.
I think so, too.
I think that was kind of started in 2016. It was like, oh my gosh, we have somebody that we actually believe is authentic. And then Trump comes in. But I do believe that that's one of the things that, that got Trump some support, because they were like, he's not just like, one of
thought
these.
He was more authentic than Clinton. That's amazing to me. Like there are people who are on a wavelength. I think what it is, they take his lying and like the not necessarily cursing, but the browbeating, the tone, as wow, he doesn't talk like a normal politician, and so he's more like us.
They saw that as being authentic.
But that's that's a false persona of sorts that he uses in order to get from point A to point B. But yeah, they take that as authenticity.
Emmanuel Lovell, thank you for the super chat. Didn't put any text, but he did donate a super chat, so thank you.
Leave text. I like it when they
at least
text.
say hello.
All right, so let's go to the next one. Trump at the nuclear summit.
Yes, two times two, or someone in the chat kept saying, are we going to cover this? Are we going to cover this? Yes, we are covering Trump at the nuclear summit.
All right, so I'm interested in what you think about this. So you can give a breakdown.
Okay, this might go terrible, so bear with us. But so the nuclear summit was last week, and apparently, hold on, let me bring my notes up. Read the you put me on the spot. I didn't know that I was going to be doing this one. All right,
it's not that easy, is it? It's not that easy. When I be doing the news, I tell her, I'm like, every little sound quirk breaks the channel. And so it's like she could be in there with the dogs and there's like a little something in the background and it screws you up. Like
it's not about being distracted. This is about me not being prepared because I didn't know that I was going to cover this one.
You should have lied to say distracted.
I'm not going to lie. I shouldn't have lied and said distracted. That's ridiculous. I didn't know that I was going to present this one.
Distracted was a better thing. I was trying to help you out. You my wife.
So Trump comes out of the nuclear summit last week and says that the negotiations broke down, and he said that they had to walk away from the summit because Kim Jong-un wanted sanctions lifted in their entirety before moving on weapons. They found that to be a bit untrue. North Korea came back with a late-night press conference denying what President Trump said. They said, where's my quote? Dun, 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 dun. Basically, no. The representative for North Korea said, what we have asked for was partial lifting of sanctions, not entirely. In detail, we asked to lift 5 sanctions that were imposed within 2016 and 2017 out of a total of 11 sanctions, which would affect ordinary people's economy and life. That was said at the late night press conference to basically just contradict what
Donald Trump was saying.
Right. So they weren't able to reach an agreement after the nuclear summit.
Donald Trump
on Thursday
wants this to look good because he's used this as part of his foreign policy thing. Look, I'm not a warmonger. I'm trying to make peace in these areas, and my foreign policy has at least gotten to the point of negotiations with North Korea. The reality of this, though, is we never look at the perspective of the other country. Right. Like, it's never a situation of how does the other country look out at the world and perceive the world? We always perceive it from purely our vantage point. We have been running war game simulations, pretending as if we were going to invade North Korea. North Korea has completely bitched and moaned about this because, like anything else, it's like imagine the country Mexico doing war game simulations with Russia invading the United States. They'll flip out over this stuff. Not to mention, from North Korea's standpoint, their population was demolished. They lost 1/5 of their population in the last Korean War. We may have forgotten about that war. They have not forgotten about that war. Also, you know, from the standpoint of the U.S., we've broken one deal after the next. Trump has pulled out the INF treaty. Trump has pulled out of the Paris Agreement. Trump has pulled out of we invaded Libya. That wasn't under Trump. That was under Obama. It's still the United States government. We have been an unworthy or untrustworthy actor in this case. So it's like, how can you make a deal with a country that reneges on whatever deal that they want? How do you do that? And why on earth will North Korea give up its nuclear weapons if it can't trust the United States? Because I guarantee you this, the only thing that kept North Korea from being Venezuela was a nuclear weapon. Like, you can't invade it. It has a nuclear weapon. It can launch a weapon on Japan and, you know, murder millions and something like that. So at the end of the day, you're stuck with foreign policy. You can't attack the country. You're stuck with foreign policy. This country has a nuclear bomb. Meaning, the strategy of getting a nuclear bomb was right by definition of them being still in existence. Now, people may hate that, but no sober look and sober analysis is going to say give up the one ace in the hole that you have that's preventing you from being toppled.
Yeah.
They said it. They've even said it themselves that this bomb here is here for defensive measures. If they ever launched that bomb, they would be utterly destroyed. They keep acting like the guy's not rational. You know, oh, this crazy dictator, this crazy guy in this other place. Maybe he's not crazy. Maybe he has interests that don't necessarily coincide with our own interests. And particularly if, you know, we assume that the United States can be trusted. That's our assumption. There's no reason to believe that from the standpoint of other countries. So
we got a couple super chats that we missed, so we got to go back. The feed is going pretty quickly, so we have to go back through. Can you bring up the super chat on this screen? It's a little easier for us to watch there, so forgive us. We have to manually scroll through. I have to manually scroll through. But Charles Calvin, thank you for the super chat, says, people like Boyce Watkins and Phil Advise are pushing against Bernie, and I'm afraid many black people listen to them. The black vote is crucial, and this is coming from the same people who convinced 90% for Hillary. All right, so we have another.
Well, let me.
You want to address that one?
DNC, it's my party, and your crap you want to. Now, this is messed up because I think what Bob is saying here is, you know, I've made the point that says I'm going to come onto this show and weep if Bernie Sanders comes out and endorses like Kamala Harris. Like Bernie Sanders gets cheated again, he comes out and endorses Kamala Harris. I will cry on camera for Bob Ramirez. I've said it multiple times.
I won't be here for that show.
That's going to be a sad, pathetic show. That's going to be a really pathetic show. Oh, man.
Hold on, we've got another one.
Oh, as for the other thing, to comment on that one. Look, you have to ask the question of what are you trying to accomplish? And, you know, what are you trying to accomplish? Not just a conceptual thing. Do you want real changes in the world? Yes or no? And do you want those real changes to affect the communities that you say you believe in? Meaning, if I want reparations because I believe that A, they're owed, but B, that they'll have a material difference in the lives of people who are ensconced in poverty. What if I can't get that, though? But the original premise of that is I want those for people so they're not ensconced in poverty. I want to level the playing field to some degree in the way people are. I can't level the playing field, but...
If I'm not in office.
Right. Well, A, if you're not in office, but what Bernie Sanders is pushing is not reparations, so, you know, fair enough. And I agree with the premise that reparations are fair enough. But that's a different argument than the political argument of what is this country, and is there an argument that can be made about reparations that doesn't make you lose? That's the original point. Meaning, you can take this absolutist perspective on reparations, and your society ends up worse, like materially worse, like significantly materially worse. Sanders' plan will outsource, it will, in an outsized way, help the people at the bottom of the economic spectrum. Yes, it's multicultural because many people, all sorts of races along the economic spectrum, are poor and don't have access to the things that they need. And again, no, it's not reparations, but many people, multicultural, are poor. Like, I don't get the absolutist position on this one, especially when the absolutist position loses. I'm just saying, unless someone wants to make an argument to me that flies and works in the general, then, you know, this thing reparations. I feel like it's like, A, you're hurting a perspective that can actually get gains in areas that affects people like you. You know, across healthcare, education. I mean, all of these areas where people, you know, are saddled with debt and are barely making ends meet and are persistently vulnerable. And you have somebody who's saying, let's deal with that. But because it's not race specific, it's not enough. I don't know the race specific program that white Americans are going to vote for. And just as a heads up, you need white Americans if you want to win. It's not about purely the black vote.
Aricard, the immortal, has a super chat. Thank you. He wants to know, would you rather be born in Africa or America right now? America. I don't know.
I have no issue. You know, I know lefties hit America. Some of the, you know, right-wingers always say we punch America. But I don't think it's punching America out of any level of hatred. I think it's somewhat of an honest actor. It's looking at it and say, you know, I want it to be better. Not necessarily to pretend if it doesn't exist. You know, oh, the flaws, the faults. If we're doing regime change, then we're doing regime change. I think you have to deal with that honestly and be straightforward with the fact that that's what you're doing. If you're trying to topple another government, if you're surrounding another government with weapons, be honest, you know. I say the be honest part because sometimes just because I attack that doesn't necessarily mean I hate the country. There's a difference in those things. It's like you're pointing a finger to it because you want to change it, not necessarily because you...
I know the more we travel, the less American I feel. Or the less
I wouldn't mind living
connection I have with America. Like when we travel, as soon as we get home, I'm like, oh, I'm disgusted. Like, oh, I'm fucking disgusted. So,
if you had healthcare, education, high-speed rail, would you feel that way? Like, I guess my saying is, the reason you feel disgusted to some degree is just the area, the material area. I think part of the reason is you can see what other countries offer in regards to their citizenry versus America's, the way we go about our way.
I don't know, plus like our history too. And then like while we're on like the topic of reparations, and one of the big differences between America and different countries, I remember the first week that I got home, after we had been traveling for months and been to what, like 12 different countries, the things that we experience in the United States are still so different than things that we would ever experience in other countries. And people ask us all the time, do we encounter racism and stuff like that? Personally, I have not as overtly as I do here in the United States. I remember being back for a week. The very first week that I got back, I went out to dinner with my family, and I was waiting like in the lobby of the restaurant. And these three people came in, and they were white, and I was standing there, and the girl came in and looked me up and down and turned and said something to the guy next to her. And he said something like, you know, he kind of leaned over and asked me to like scoot down or something. But it was that kind of thing like, oh, they gotta be racist. You know what I mean? Like it was she looked at me like she was disgusted. And outside of my race, I mean, I think I was dressed kind of cute. I don't know. Maybe she didn't like my hair. My glasses were ugly. I don't know. But as soon as I get back to the United States, you're confronted with, you know, are they treating me that way because I'm racist? Maybe they just were like, she needs to scoot down. She's taking up too much space.
It's always that doubt.
But it's that what if that we don't have while we're traveling. And that's the kind of thing that like as soon as you get back, it's like, oh, I got to deal with this shit again.
Well, the thing is, when you're traveling, you're not black, you're just an American.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. Like they have those, you know, it's like they have racism in France. They have racism anywhere. I mean, you can make a case that they brought that shit over to the United States. So it wasn't necessarily purely, you know, a creation of the United States. We don't necessarily experience it because we're always in the situation of, we're moving, but you're Americans.
And that might be true too, that we haven't spent enough time in one place. I think the longest we've been somewhere is like 3 weeks or something. Yeah. But I feel you. It's just like a constant when you get home. And then it's like, you know, we live in Virginia, and this is the South, and you know, you see people that are. God, I'm gonna sound really racist when I say this, but you know, you see people that are walking and they have on like camouflage and you know, like hunting gear, and
you know, my uncle goes hunting.
I know, but there's a different. I don't know. There's like a different. I saw this meme where the lady is like looking, and she's like me trying to see what's on that red baseball cap. Like, is this a MAGA person? You know what I mean? Like, you encounter people that that are stereotyped just like we're stereotyped, I guess.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, why is he looking at me that way? Is he racist? I mean, like, why is he cutting me off in traffic? Is it because I'm black? You know what I mean? Like,
I gotta be honest, I don't think that way.
Oh,
like maybe because I don't care. I mean, in part, to be honest. But I don't. Like, I know what you mean. Like, sometimes you have these interactions where it's a doubt.
Why are you being like my thing is I think that I am by default a nice, cordial person. Sometimes. You know, friendly, approachable. I think I'm very approachable. So like, if I'm just standing there doing nothing but being my awesome, approachable self, why are you being a dickhead?
No. Don't misunderstand
And
me.
so that's one of the questions that I asked is like, what?
I'm
I mean,
not
is this guy
saying,
having a bad day? Is he racist? Why is he treating me like trash?
I'm not saying that there aren't, like I said, there's always doubts. Like, sometimes it's like in interactions, because of the history and because of culture and all this other stuff, there's always this thing in your head of, is it because of X?
Right. I guess what I'm saying is the history isn't there while we're traveling. So when you're talking about would I rather be American or African, I don't know. I mean, those are the things. Those are the things. I don't know that I would rather be born in Africa right now, but I guess I'm just adding that on when I think about, you know, what do I relate to? Do I relate to America? Especially when we're talking about this reparations thing, and it's like the history of this country. Like, America is so fucked up on so many levels, and it's like, you know, ooh.
I feel you. I guess like, I don't.
You know,
I gotta be honest. I spend time thinking about race. I don't necessarily spend a huge amount of time thinking about the many interactions with people, because for the most part, I don't feel that it is, you know, am I going every so often. Don't get me wrong.
You don't leave the house.
Well, that too. but every so often, when I did leave the house, there would be, you know, when I grew up, I used to read like super pro-black books, like super black, like, you know, like the Browder Files, those type of books. And it took me a while to get to the point of out of the mindset of I came to a realization when I got ill. There was we were, what was it? It was a neuropathy. It was neuropathy, and it was when it first started. And this was, you know, I was in this phase of, you know, we deserve reparations, like fully in that mode of, you know, this is kind of fucked up. They fucked us over, like fully into this kind of a certain mindset of looking at the world through this kind of super black lens. I don't know what to call it. Super black, pro black, super black. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I'll go with that.
Pro black,
super black. I'm going with super black.
Super black.
Yeah.
Oh, poor choice. Okay, go ahead. Moving on.
One of my doctors, I end up getting real ill, 3 a.m. My mom calls him crying, and he comes out of his office at 3 a.m. and is injecting me with this anesthetic in order to cut the pain down, because at this point, it's been hours, and I can't get back to the hospital to get morphine. And I realized in this moment, I was like, this guy's come, you know, if my conception of the world was right, this guy would not come out of his house to help me in this way. But he did. And so maybe it's not as simple as take a pun black and white. You like that, right? You like that. I guess, and as I got older, it just, I don't know, it became less and less relevant. It's like fight like hell to protect identity, meaning hold the line and fight for this kind of racial justice. So yes, but simultaneously not necessarily being stuck within the context where you can't necessarily see outside of it. Like it's this, you know, picking your point of view, because sometimes multiple point of views are right. I don't know. I don't have that full feeling like.
All right, we need to go to what? Oh, I thought he was being literal. Patrick Scarpati says, "My God, those damn ugly glasses. I may have to stop watching." I thought he was being serious. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't." What? Screw you, man. My glasses are cute, but I get it.
Meditating Jesus. Give people ownership over the means of production, not money. Universal housing, healthcare, food, clean water. Money's not helpful. Money causes inflation. So right there, like,
not a check, like Bernie said.
Yeah, no, he's saying not necessarily a check, but that's just a hard argument, man. I don't know how, and keep understand when I'm saying this. This is because my perspective of what I think the rest of the country would go for, because ultimately the people who will be voting on it is the rest of the country. That's, I fully agree with reparations. I just don't want it to be a political thing of him losing because of it. And I don't want Democrats taking it up in order to just purely get around Sanders, to push him further to the left and he can, bear to go.
Yeah,
And I also don't want him lying about.
We got to read Wicked Guru.
Bernie's biggest problem, I think, is foreign policy. His domestic policy is already all-inclusive. That, and he should do better with the drug issue. What do you mean the drug issue? Well, he's saying legalize marijuana. I don't know what else you mean for the drug issue. For pharmaceutical drugs, he's talking about lowering the cost. So, I don't know what the drug issue is. Unless you mean the like narcotics. Getting access to narcotics. That's a pain.
And he's already trying to tackle like drug prices and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
You want to check Streamlabs?
Yes. All right, let's go to the next one because we've been all over the place.
We have. Thank you guys for bearing with us. We're just under 300 people. So if you are, this is a good time for me to give my spiel. Can I do my spiel? Our patron spiel. So if you're
wait, super chats.
Oh, we got a couple.
There's a
super
tab
chats.
on Streamlabs for super chats. It's the 4th tab in my donation page. There's a tab for that? Oh, there is. You can just use this.
Who?
Not super chats together, so you never have to scroll.
Thank you. Someone essentially, because you did not read all of that out loud, but someone essentially gave us a tip for how to see all of Streamlabs and super chats in one place.
There's a tab on Streamlabs on super chats. It's the 4th tab on my donations page. Under the donations list, quote unquote, tab, it should have both Streamlabs and super chats together, so you never have to scroll.
Thank you for the tip. There's another. There was another super chat. There's another Streamlabs. Go back. All right. So while you're doing that, just a spiel. If you are if you're just joining us, is that like what the reporters say on the news?
Wait a minute. Kills for a living. Early polls have Biden leading the South Carolina, and he hasn't even announced he's running yet. Yet it's early, but it's more proof that Bernie has a black voter issue in the South, and the View, the mouthpiece of the state, targets ugly women. So why do you...
The View is the mouthpiece of the state that targets old, ugly women? That's not nice.
No, that's not nice. I don't know why Biden would be better with black on this. Is Biden going for reparations?
Is Biden running? No, he said he hasn't.
But there's no way Biden is going for reparations. In fact, none of the candidates are really going for reparations. If you're asking Elizabeth Warren, I would almost guarantee you that it's not exclusive, meaning specific to descendants of slaves. None of them. So it's like, are you punishing Bernie Sanders for not doing something that the other candidates are also not doing? What am I missing?
Well, they're at least giving you the bone. They're at least saying, we're going to do reparations. We're going to do some form of reparations. Trudy says there's not enough money in the world for real reparations. I mean,
that's true.
I think he's made it clear. I've made it clear. We'd like to see some type of reparations. The question is, in what form? And then the problem is
political.
Bernie endorsing reparations.
It loses. I think it loses. I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody who's
I guess the argument is,
and this issue has come up.
Well, I guess the argument is then, so what about the people who are endorsing reparations? They're not afraid of losing. They're putting their voice behind reparations.
Yes.
So why can't Bernie do the same?
What do you mean put his voice behind reparations?
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren is doing it. If that's something that he really believed in, shouldn't he be out there?
Elizabeth Warren has little to no chance of getting to the general.
So because Bernie has a chance, he has to be...
Yes.
If we're selective about what he's going to support.
If you and I are playing chess, and I am in somewhat of a difficult position, and in that difficult position, if I do nothing else, just make basic moves, meaning here's a logical, rational move, I'm going to get pushed off the board, I'm going to lose. Now, if that's true, and I accept that that's true, why would I continue to do just the basic moves and get pushed off the board? It's better to do a Hail Mary as opposed to just kind of letting yourself get eliminated in this way. So from Elizabeth Warren's standpoint, yeah, reparations. I'm going to try to whatever I can to get the black vote because I have no chance of getting to the main election anyway. So if I get to the main election, then that's a problem I need to deal with. And I'm probably going to backstep more what reparations mean. When she explains it's probably going to be some kind of multicultural thing that's not specific. They're just using and bastardizing the word. It's not, I would be highly doubtful that it's from descendants of slaves, specifically to American descendants of slaves. Highly doubtful. So, yeah, she's using the word. She's probably going to explain the word, and it's not going to be what they think that word means. From Sanders' point of view, Sanders has a higher chance of getting to the general election, which means, yeah, Sanders has to be somewhat, whatever he says now, he has to be able to defend later.
Right.
And they're going to be hitting him with it over and over and over and over again the moment that he says yes to that question.
All right, we got some more.
I just, God, man, I know this question has come up when we've started talking about race a lot. But we're talking about it because it becomes somewhat of an issue on this topic. And it's one of those things I disagree. I feel like a Hillary voter having a conversation with a Bernie voter back in 2016 on the election issue. But I think the difference here is what Sanders is talking about gets more bang for your buck than any other president over the past 50 years. Like, it's not even close. So if we're having a conversation on what is the best interest of the people at the bottom of the economic spectrum that the reparations are supposed to try to make whole, it's Sanders, because you're not getting the other thing. Just saying. I gotta hate this, that the fact that this has become an issue. Yes, I agree with reparations. And I suspect if you were talking to Bernie Sanders and, him and his God at 3 a.m, he would probably say the same thing. But Bernie Sanders is a politician, and at the end of the day...
Well, when he did the first town hall, when they asked him, when Wolf Blitzer, asked him about reparations, he said, what does that mean? And he said, essentially, I agree that, something should be done.
But they're talking about multicultural. He's not talking about a specific American descendants of slaves. Do you know that affirmative action was supposed to be one of those things, reparations, but affirmative action was used more so by white women than blacks? That blew my mind.
Where you get that from?
I read stuff.
FMA?
No, I read stuff. That's real, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's real. Because it wasn't specific to African Americans. So the argument that people make is, well, that's not really reparations, because white women weren't put into bondage. White women weren't, chattel.
We got Streamlabs and Super Chats.
All right. Early voting is showing Nancy Pelosi's bid for Speaker of House of Atlantis is going well.
Knit the Net.
She's ready to support Knit the Net to keep Murphy
Balthazar.
out.
What the?
American citizenship is worth a lot. Reparations.
That is true.
Yes. Whoa, wait a minute. American citizenship is not No, I disagree. American citizenship is not reparations. It's not.
No, it's not reparations.
You were slavery, so all right. We're going to just kind of let you guys go now, so everything is good. But hey, you're American citizens, and that should be enough.
Well, when I hear
that's bullshit.
When I hear American citizenship is worth a lot, it reminds me of, the travel world and the American passport compared to a lot of other lesser passports. Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking about when I hear that. But I don't know if that's the context.
But that has nothing to do. At worst, even within the Constitution, we're 3/5 citizens, right? 3/5 a person, we're here. Look, if you take somebody, brutalize somebody, force that person to do labor for hundreds of years, and then at the end of that, you don't give anything for the labor that the person did. You don't give any provisions for where the person needs to be. You institute laws and culture, tradition, in order to subjugate that particular individual, even after this labor has taken place. If only for the labor itself, payment is due. The citizenship is not that payment. I'm sorry, it's not.
I don't know that that's what they were trying to say with
that's
that
statement. That's what it
statement.
sounds like.
See, I got something different from that.
Well, I'm sorry that you got it objectively wrong. That's where I'm at.
We got other Streamlabs to read too.
Ray Foley. We were at Convergence Conference together. Sorry we never talked. Love your work. Ray Foley. Oh, thanks, man. And yeah, we were at Convergence. My wife and I. You were there. You went to Convergence.
Was that the one in DC?
Yeah.
We've been to a few.
You got it.
If you guys hear, I didn't even get to do my patron spiel. You stopped me. Okay, I'm doing it now.
Wait,
don't interrupt me again. What the?
Do you think the Venn diagram is progressive enough to create new viable party and corporate enough to not get kicked out of Tom Perez has overlap? I fear the party has moved too far to the right for overlap.
Do you think the Venn diagram of progressive enough to create a new viable party and corporate enough to get kicked out, to not get kicked out by Tom Perez has overlap? What do you think?
I guess you're asking, I guess you're saying, is the Democratic Party salvageable? Is that what you're saying? Progressive enough to create a new viable party and corporate enough. But see, you don't have to be a viable, you can be whatever you want party. To be, create a viable party. The Venn diagram, progressive enough to create a new viable party and corporate enough. Oh, I see. Progressive enough to create a new viable. So among lefties, corporate they look at this and say, yes, this is lefty enough to do so. And corporate enough to get out. So,
do you think it has overlap?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So, as a quantity, if this is one quantity, Tom Perez, essentially corporate Democrats with Tom Perez would say, okay, you're, corporate enough where you can play in our circle versus progressive enough to start a new party. Is there any overlap in these things? Multicultural issues. Like, if you're talking about somebody, somebody's gay pet frog with a wooden leg, like, I guess my point is identity issues have taken prominence within the Democratic Party. The defense of the identity issues is paramount. That doesn't change. It's not used in the way that they use it, where it's like used to cover economic stuff, but it should be defended. The hegemonic viewpoint of what we consider now to be this kind of interaction with one another. And yeah, a certain degree of political correctness in order to keep people from fighting and kicking and punching one another. Yeah, I mean, I don't, under that, guys, but the question becomes economics, right? What are lefties going to go for from the standpoint of economics platform? What Sanders' platform do? If you're talking about moving the country to the left, I would imagine Sanders could rip each and every one of the lefties out of a particular and create a party on its own. Whether it's enough to win, I don't know. I got to be honest, I'm inclined to believe that this, he is trying to create a multicultural, 1 million man army in each state to do what he wants to do. And if he can do that, he can change the world, especially if at the end of the election, he doesn't stop. It's not like Obama where it's like, all right, you guys can go home. It's those million people are still active the entire time he's president. And they're out there screaming at congressmen, playing a boombox at their door, like, bugging the shit out of each and every last one of them. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's precisely what I want. Anything you want to say on the North Korea thing?
No, but I wanted to give my patron spiel. All right, so we're at a little over 300 people. So thank you guys for joining us today. I think we just hit 310.
You know what's wild about that?
Oh my God, if you interrupt me one more time, I'm gone. I'm leaving. I am getting up and walking out. If you interrupt me in my patron spiel one more time.
It's important. You know what's wild about that? I have a hard time getting above 250-ish. But it seems like when you are here, it brings in an additional X number. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe good, because, all these people are here, but if I'm being honest, my pride is slightly hurt by this.
See, someone said we want the patron spiel.
Sorry.
Someone said hit him.
They said hit the like button.
No, they said hit you.
It says hit the like button.
Someone said smack him.
Nobody's saying anything.
I fucking see it right here.
That's not.
Smack him, hit him. They are promoting violence against you for your constant interruptions of me doing my patron spiel.
There's no balance, but it gets me.
Okay, so we're going to try this one more time.
Go for it.
I am justified if I get up and you don't see me again for the rest of this segment of Patron Appreciation. You got something else to say before I go? You want to read that super chat? I saw it just pop up.
I did.
Go ahead and read the super chat.
All right. So, Akira the Immortal. You say citizenship isn't worth a lot. I didn't say that. But that's subjectively, economically, political. I never said that. So just so you're clear, I never said that. And I don't think you said you would rather be born. That's not what I said. What I said was it's not worth in context of it's not payment. Like citizenship is not payment. You don't have somebody in chattel slavery for like 300 years and then turn around and says, okay, you're a citizen now. Congratulations. Payment.
Is
for
that
what had taken place.
So our card, is that what you're saying?
That's what he's saying. Yeah, the citizenship should be the payment. That's insane. That's utterly insane. I'm sorry.
I don't agree with that.
Bizarre. Yeah, that's a bizarre statement.
Wicked Guru has a super chat. Read that one so I can do my spiel, please.
Yeah. Akira, we completely disagree on this. You understand that part of the reason that slavery was in existence was in order to get economic benefit without having to pay for that economic benefit. Meaning, if I can maximize my profit, if I can get labor for free, then I can damn sure maximize my profit better than anything else. That was used for profit. Meaning all of those people that were working and they were under the whip for all of those years, the material harm that was taking place. And you believe that citizenship is payment? We are completely different. Yeah, that's bizarre. I'm sorry, that's bizarre. Having you both on makes the show even better than it already is. Smack them if you feel like it. We got your back. Don't let them get you in trouble.
I'm just saying.
Don't let them get you in trouble.
I'm just saying. I'd be justified if I either hit you and or leave. But we're going to do the Patreon because we still have over 300 people here.
You have those ethnic curls going, and if I call the cops, they're taking you in.
You a lie. If the police show up, you're going under the jail. Under the jail. All right.
Like, she got those ethnic curls. Watch her.
Okay, so if you weren't here at the start of the show, we had people that came in last time. I would imagine if there's 300 people here, then not everyone is a subscriber, and maybe they don't know who we are. Maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, first of all, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. If you're coming back, if you enjoy the content, make sure that you're subscribed so that you get notifications for every video. I am just here every now and then, if you're just showing up and you don't know. Once a week for this Patron Appreciation Show. So for today...
Sundays at 1 p.m.
Today... Technically, you're still fucking interrupting me. But we're going to move on. Today is Patron Appreciation Show. So if you are a patron, make sure that when you see the notification for today's show, the announcement, that you submit your topic suggestions. Patron Appreciation is to do just that. Give appreciation for the people who donate on Patreon, on PayPal, on Super Chat. So that is your opportunity to suggest topics to be discussed for today. After today's live show, the show will be taken down and it will be available only to patrons. So,
people with PayPal.
Or people with PayPal. So if you are donating outside of Patreon, because he does get a lot of donations outside of Patreon, or some, but if you are donating through an alternate means, then make sure with your donation or with a separate email him and say, hey, I donated. This is the topic that I would like to recommend for Patron Appreciation Show. Yes, Don Hooligan is reminding everybody to hit the like button. Not everybody can contribute, but do at least make sure that you're subscribed so you can continuously get the content, and hit the like button so that we know what you guys are feeling.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's it. So this is Patron, and you were gonna deny me that.
You just did it.
You're going to deny me that spiel. So yes, make sure that you are subscribed and you hit the like button if you enjoy the content. If you are subscribed, make sure that you hit the bell icon for notifications so when new videos come out. And then also, if you're able, consider being a patron. It takes as little as $1 a month of a contribution, and you get access to the stuff like every week patron, and then he's putting some additional content on there a couple times a week, just for patrons specifically. Trying to give more to patrons.
Definitely.
So if you guys have suggestions, let us know.
Yeah, definitely this. So there's like 4 times a week for this, but yeah, we're trying to add additional content 4 times a month, right?
Yeah. So,
but we're trying to add additional content to the Patreon.
That's my Patreon spiel.
And engage more, because I'm not great with that part. I'm in a situation where I try to think, what do I want to do? And how do I, expand, and what does expansion even mean in this context? And, you know, the most straightforward, overt one is just subscribers, how many subscribers you have. But it's also how many views you have in particular videos, that type of stuff. All those things factor into it. It's like, how do you get better at that? And where do you go? Stuff like Twitch, where you play games, playing chess with people. That would be cool. Like playing chess with random subscribers.
Can you do that on YouTube? No.
Yeah, you can do it on YouTube. I mean, it would have to be both people, like in an ICC, and we're just gonna play like that. I've offered it. Nobody's taken me up on it.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Just with soapbox. All right. So let's go to the next one. Joe Biden and Mike Pence.
Oh wait, I'm gonna interrupt you because I forgot that I wanted to say something. So for the first 2 topics that we covered, if you are late to joining, we have already talked about Bernie versus The View, his appearance and his issues that were raised on the while he appeared on The View. And we also talked about Trump and the nuclear summit, a little bit of reparations. So if you are...
Call-in show.
Huh?
Call-in show.
Call-in show. Do we want to do a call-in show?
Maybe. I mean, that might be a better expansion. Initially, when I was doing the call-in show, it was the same people over and over calling. And I kept thinking, it was like, what's the point of a call-in show with the only people? I realized that's how all call-in shows are. Like, there's a nucleus of people who continue to, like, call. So that wasn't just my show. So, maybe. Baltazar, what's the minimum popularity percentage that the Democrats will try to shove Kamala Muchin 2020 down our throats? I'm thinking 8%. Man, I couldn't imagine. Why is she running? What is even her platform? I don't even know her platform. I didn't even know her platform. And I guarantee you she's not going to go for reparations. Not descendants of slaves reparations. All of them know it. When Kamala Harris was having a conversation with Charlemagne the God, I think that's what his name is. And when they were having the conversation back and forth, he kind of made this one like, why are you guys against reparations? Like, why is this such a touchy subject? And it's like, you know the answer to that question. Like, you may not want to say the answer to that question, but you know the answer to that question. All right, so let's go with Joe Biden and Mike Pence. Joe Biden gives Mike Pence a compliment, and he is immediately attacked for giving him a compliment. I thought this was hilarious.
Well, I think it's pretty common knowledge that Mike Pence is the most well-liked guy.
He's anti-gay. You guys anti-gay. So, right here. So, Biden, 76, complimented Pence, 59, while discussing how the current VP was received after giving the speech to an international gathering at the Munich Security Conference last month. The fact of the matter is that it was followed on by a guy who was a decent guy, our vice president, who stood before this group of allies and leaders and said, I'm here on behalf of President Trump, and there was dead silence. Dead silence, Biden said at the University of Nebraska in Omaha on Thursday, according to CNN. So this is him telling on himself. Like, this is him telling him on himself something that pisses people off. So Cynthia Nixon, who's gay, challenged Biden's statement the same day. Joe Biden, you've just called America's most anti-gay or anti-LGBT politician or leader a decent guy, the actress and former gubernatorial candidate, 52, wrote. Please consider how this falls on the ears of the community. Less than an hour later, Biden responded to Nixon directly on Twitter and explained the context of the statement. You're right, Cynthia, he wrote. I was making a point of a foreign policy context. Under normal circumstances, the vice president would be given a silent reaction on the world stage. He continued, there's nothing decent about being anti-LGBTQ rights, and that includes Vice President Pence. She hit him immediately. Now, can you be a decent guy and be anti-LGBTQ? I'm asking.
Me?
I'm asking.
I think Pence is pretty gross.
I'm not saying Pence.
Can you be a decent guy?
Can you be a decent guy and be anti-LGBTQ?
Not as far as I'm concerned.
There's no way to thread a needle of hating gays, but being decent.
No. If you're hating gays, you're pretty
anti-LGBTQ is essentially hating gays.
Right? I mean, I don't think I would consider you a decent
guy
if you hate gays.
I don't know how you pull that off. I don't know how you be a decent guy if you hate anybody. I would imagine that. Well, that's not true. There can be people that you hate, vigorously, but there are specific individual people. It's not because of race or color, that type of stuff. Joe Biden is a gaffe machine. And Joe Biden...
A gaffe machine.
But I would imagine that, in honesty, Joe Biden probably does think Mike Pence is a decent guy. Politically, you can't say that. Politically, you have to come back and say, you're right, Cynthia, I think he's a horrible person. But in 3 a.m. with his God, yeah, I think he's a decent guy.
He alright.
We had drinks together.
Biden.
Yeah. I would almost guarantee you. Because at a certain point, you're dealing with people and you just take this stuff as, this is what this person is and this is his political identity. But he's very self-effacing. That type of stuff. Or he is a pleasant demeanor. And you saw when Mike Pence was doing the debates, where Mike Pence was going out, I think it was Pence and Tim Kaine. And Mike Pence had the job of cleaning up everything that Trump had said. Because Trump was lying from the minute, he woke up to the minute that he closed his eyes. And Mike Pence had to get on that debate stage knowing that everything that Trump said was a lie. And what did he do? He did the Pence handshake. Some people said, Donald Trump said some absurd thing, and Pence was like, that was his way out. And at the end of that debate, the people said, he looks like our grandpa. I shit you not. Like, this is kind of my point by this. Like, this way of interacting where it doesn't come across as the policies. There's this odd gap between what the person represents and what that person wants to affect on the wider world, and yet how people perceive that person. If George W. Bush dropped dead tomorrow, they would have a funeral for George W. Bush as if he wasn't a fuck up and didn't start multiple wars. You know what I mean? Like, it's nonsense. But that's the way they interact with one another, as if it's kind of boys' club or girls' club. I don't think it's specific to boys.
Can I read a super chat?
Go for it. But you don't have anything to say on this?
I said what I had to say.
What you had to say?
Oh, for Mike. Yeah, I think Mike Pence is gross.
That's it.
That's. I think that's all that needs to be said here. Joe Biden has said some silly things, or
you know, think he's going to support reparations?
Biden?
I don't think so.
I think Biden's wasted in this picture. I don't know. Also, is he running?
Touchy feely. Like, have you seen the pictures with him like groping? No, it gets worse.
Oh.
Like, there's one where he's with a biker, and she's sitting on his.
I don't want to see Joe Biden groping people. While you're looking for that, can I respond to this super chat?
Go for it.
Because I'm not usually a hard ass on anything, especially like Jamal. But Aricard says, I'm trying not to punch him too hard in the face for this statement. But Aricard says, if I were African American, I'd be grateful for the United States. I think that's easy to say because you're not African American.
Yeah, and I don't quite understand. Like, the argument that needs to be made here is, why does citizenship mend all wounds? You know what I mean? Like, that has to be understood. Why does citizenship mend all wounds? There are 2 points. There's this point of, you've committed a gross trauma to a group. And should there be any level of punitive charges for the trauma? Like, if this was any other case where you had somebody, for something that somebody did, and they did as a flat fact, and the judge was looking at this, A, we want to make sure this doesn't happen again, but B, we want to also acknowledge that it took place. And in the acknowledgement, there's some level of mediation between it. It's like when Germany paid reparations. I mean, Germany had been paying reparations for like 89 years to Israel. And same thing with the Japanese. I mean, you know, we paid reparations to the Japanese on this case. Like, this idea that reparations is okay for everybody else, but it's unspeakable for African Americans, is nonsense. I don't buy this argument.
Yeah, I just don't like the statement, if I were African American, I'd be grateful for the United States. I wonder how well versed you are, or how educated are.
Well, the very statement itself means that you're outside
on the history of the United States and African Americans. Like, yeah.
I don't buy that statement. That's all. And to be honest, that's not really an argument. It's like, you can make a case for citizenship. Everybody's going to be somewhere, right? And ultimately, the United States brought people over into a country in order to do work. The United States wrote them as 3/5 people within the Constitution itself. Meaning, we were integrated not because of choice, but because of force. This notion that citizenship in and of itself should be some justification as a cause is nonsense. Like, I don't buy that at all. That's, you know. Let's take a look at, this is Biden groping a biker. I love this picture. Look at this guy. He's like staring at Biden as Biden, you know, and is she sitting on Biden's lap?
I don't want to watch Biden at all. I don't need that.
Can you imagine the kind of gropey campaign Biden is going to put on? Oh, man. Biden. That's awesome. All right. So you have nothing else to say about that one. So, is Bernie Sanders Batman? That's where we're at. I struggle.
What's the comparison?
What do you mean?
What are the similarities?
Let me make the argument first. Allow me to make the argument. You know, you get into this woman's explain anything.
Allow you to make the argument? Wait a minute. I just want to say, somebody said that I should stop complaining about...
Wait. Do the Africans who sold you also owe you reparations? Well, no. I mean, you can say the Africans sold them, but what took place at the end point? You know, come on. Let's be different. I mean, let's be honest. It's not that I don't accept that Africans played a role in this. So, fair enough. But I don't see what the role Africans played in this have anything to do with the justification for what took place at the end point. I don't get it. The argument doesn't fly to me.
Wait, I thought I was gonna...
Oh, go for it.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Go for it. Do your thing.
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah. What are you doing, reading chats?
Yeah. I'm Irish. After independence from the Brits, we had somewhere to go. Too many. What happened over the centuries will never be made up for. I don't know how slavery can ever be for blacks. Look, you make up for it like you always make up for it. You find some kind of way of mediating what took place. You can have an acknowledgement and you have something to make sure it doesn't necessarily happen again. Not just make sure it doesn't happen again. You make amends. I mean, that's like, you know, there's no way to go back in time in order to quantify the damage that was done. You can't quantify that from the standpoint of a human toll, nor can you quantify it from the standpoint of cost. Well, that's not true. Maybe it was quantify costs, like how much
is owed.
Is owed, yeah, in that sense. But you can't quantify human costs. What was the toll of people, you know, under the whip for all of these years? What is the psychological, you know, changes that happened because of people who were in the situation? But you can try to, at the very least, come to some resolution for it. A resolution that never took place in the case of African Americans with the context of slavery. This thing of, all right, we're going to give you 40 acres and a mule. Hey, why even say that? Why talk about 40 acres and a mule? Don't take my word for it. I'm asking this to say, if your argument is right that citizenship was enough, even the people at the time didn't think citizenship was enough. Like, you know. So
we got to give you something else. Make up for this shit.
This argument doesn't fly. This argument doesn't fly at all. I mean, I guess you can take the argument, you take whatever argument you want, but it doesn't have any legs with me. So it's Bernie Sanders Batman. So I struggle with issues of right and wrong, or let's say good and bad, because sometimes it's hard to figure out what those are. Now, oftentimes, I usually make the argument that there's no such thing as right and wrong, that ultimately there's no cosmic God that looks down. And I don't say that from a flat fact perspective. I say that from the perspective of just somebody who's within this context and who has no way of knowing whether that's true or not. And so, because I can't know if it's true or not, if we're having a secular conversation, I have to assume that the same thing is true for the other person. The only way we can have this conversation is a secular conversation. That's my point. So that kind of means there's no cosmic right or wrong. That ultimately human beings have an opinion on something, they deem it good. The things that cause the most good, or the things that cause some kind of level of organization and construction, we call those things good. The things that cause some level of destruction and chaos, we call those things bad. And those things are to some degree subjective. And even in the subjectivity, you get into this weird thing of, like, what do you do in order to accomplish your goal? Ultimately, you end up with this thing of action and consequence, and what do you want to accomplish? Because to some degree, some of this stuff boils down to choice. So then becomes, what choices get you from point A to point B, and what are you allowed to do in pursuit of getting to point A to point B? What do you have to do to get to point A to point B? Meaning, if you deem point A to be a better position, and you say, I want to get us from where we are to there, what are you okay with doing in order to get to that place? Meaning, because ultimately your context of good and bad to some degree is wrapped around your conception of how the world is lined up with, what you want the world to be. What are you allowed to do? So this is the Batman theory, and this is where the Batman thing comes in. When Batman in the Joker film was put in a situation, Batman wants the world to be a better place. So Batman goes and uses his money to punch people in the face over and over again in order to make Gotham a better place. But Batman gets into a situation where the Joker kills, or gets what's his name to go nuts. I can't think of it. Harvey. I think it's Harvey Dent. Gets Harvey Dent to go nuts. And Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. But Batman knows that Harvey Dent was a better role model than Batman himself. And Batman said, fine, I will let the idea of Harvey Dent, the noble lie, stand in this place, and I'll let everybody else blame me for what was taking place. And there's this film where Batman is running through the streets of Gotham. He's like, let the dogs chase me. And Batman is running and his cape is flapping and he jumps into the car. That is one of the most epic scenes because Batman, essentially, the noble lie.
Can we watch that?
No, I think they should that much show. If you try to watch that. But that was
we
an
can
awesome
watch the
scene.
View.
Maybe you can watch that. Maybe we can try to pull it up. Maybe. Because that is an awesome scene. Like, he's, like, there's this narrative, he says, we can, let the dogs chase me, I'll take this on myself, because I'm goddamn Batman. Now,
he doesn't say that.
He pretty much says that, for the most part. He's feeling that. Bernie Sanders wants the world to be a particular way. Clearly. I mean, his platform is all of these things that he believes that the country can be. And that's what he's pushing forward, and that's what he's trying to be. Meaning, in Bernie Sanders' idealized, conceived world, and trying to get to that point, what is allowed of Bernie Sanders to get from point A to point B? And does that mean, at times, Bernie Sanders has to do things that his public is going to hate? Like
what?
For instance, like the supporting Clinton, having all these people boo Bernie Sanders. Meaning Bernie Sanders knowing that there's no way I can run in the presidential election if I fuck this up, because they're going to blame me and I don't want to be Ralph Nader. I'm forced politically to eat shit in this case, meaning standing out there and getting booed for over a minute. And keep in mind, that was probably state to state to state, meaning that
Every
booing.
time he did that.
Yeah, oh, that's brutal. But he did it. He did it. He let it people boo him in this way. The moment that Hillary Clinton lost that race, Bernie Sanders probably smiled in his sleep, even though he didn't necessarily know what was coming up, because he knew that this was an opportunity for him to run, and that the narrative that he made was going to be ensconced in the public. Meaning, even though he lost, even though they raised his body up and they threw eggs and apples and bananas at him at the DNC conference, and they laughed as we wept, even though all of that took place, at the end of it, his ideas were still the ones that were propagated, whereas Hillary Clinton was, out there getting a drink or something. And he continued to propagate those ideas, despite the Russiagate stuff, despite all the stuff that was coming up. He kept with the notion of, this is what I want to do in the world, this is what I'm trying to get accomplished, that's what I'm sticking to, these are the topics. And now he runs in the race. And in running in the race, he knows as a flat fact that the Republicans are going to say, Venezuela is collapsing. And because Venezuela is collapsing, Bernie Sanders is a socialist, Venezuela is a socialist country, in which case Bernie Sanders is trying to turn America into Venezuela. Don't let him. That will be the Republicans' line and talking point. That they're going to hit him with it constantly. So, if Bernie Sanders comes out and says something favorable about Maduro, whatever it is, the thing that's going to be running in loop is Bernie Sanders saying the favorable thing about Maduro. Even if it's an offhand comment, even if it's a backhand comment, it's still going to be said about Maduro. So Bernie Sanders, anytime he makes a tweet, had to say Maduro is a horrible guy. Regardless of what he says, I don't think we should regime change, but Maduro was a horrible, disgusting guy who doesn't wash his hands. That's all I'm saying on Bernie Sanders. And then he does another tweet about humanitarian aid, knowing full well that that humanitarian aid could be used as a proxy to get Trojan horse weapons in the country. But he knows it. And he tweets it anyway. Now, Bernie Sanders is using Venezuela for political expedience to inoculate himself from Republican attack in the general, assuming he makes it to the general. Now, people like me look at this and say, that tweet is atrocious. This is a cynical ploy by Bernie Sanders to inoculate himself. But what is Bernie Sanders to do? If Bernie Sanders wants to get to that world of Medicare for all, free college, expansion of Social Security benefits, if he wants to get all that stuff that he wants in the world, does he let people hate him? Meaning, do you pull Bernie Sanders as Batman and he says, let them hate me? I do this because I want a greater good. In which case, like Batman running from the cops and the dogs saying, I'm doing this for a greater good. Is Bernie Sanders Batman? That's what I want to say. That's it. That's what I want to say. I think, more or less. Is Bernie Sanders Batman?
Wow.
Does the argument make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
I told you, it's one of those things where you have to tease out of reality, but it's there.
Creative experiments.
Wait.
Oh, you want my take?
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of get lost in all of it.
What do you mean you get lost in all of it? Ultimately, basically what I'm making the point is, in the same way that Batman allowed people to attack him for something, Bernie Sanders knows that he needs to politically inoculate himself, meaning he knows he's going to get slammed from the standpoint of the left for certain positions that he takes, with the idea of the greater good. Is Bernie Sanders Batman?
I see the comparison.
Is that what's taking place?
I don't know, wait.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know about that one.
Is that I don't know, but maybe?
I understand
I'm not saying he's
the
literally
point
Batman.
that you're trying to make. Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders ain't Batman.
We don't know that.
Bruce Wayne is
story
Batman. But,
that's what they say. I don't trust them. Just saying. But you're not buying it. Now, why aren't you buying it? What's the thing that you disagree with?
I'm not saying I don't buy it. I think...
well, I'm just saying, it's on this channel, it's not enough to say, I disagree. Anybody can disagree with anything. There needs to be some kind of cogent argument or cohesive argument to explain why you disagree.
I'm not saying I disagree.
You just said you disagree.
No.
You said, I don't know, babe.
I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's just the term Bernie Sanders being Batman. It makes me uncomfortable.
I'm asking.
Now, is he doing something comparable to what Batman did in that scenario?
Batman's trying to save the world.
Yeah.
Batman literally tried to kill Superman in order to save the world.
I understand.
Bernie Sanders is trying to save the world, literally from climate change. It's
True.
a global disaster.
True statement.
That's not superhero enough for you? Bernie Sanders saved that woman who almost got hit by a bus.
I'm just uncomfortable with calling Bernie Sanders Batman for some reason.
But you need to explain why.
No, I don't.
You do. I mean, people can feel some way, anything. You know, I feel this guy's green.
Well, I've said I agree with what you're saying. I think that they are...
You said you disagree!
I think that they are comparable. What he's doing compared to what Batman did in that movie. Yes. Do I want to call Bernie Sanders Batman? Me, personally? No.
But I'm saying why?
I don't know. It just makes me... I don't know.
Why? I need the explanation.
I don't see Bernie Sanders being a Batman.
But you've just said he's trying to save the world.
Just
like
because
Batman,
you do one thing that somebody else did doesn't make you that person.
that he was taking on all of this negative flack from stuff in order for a higher goal, meaning this kind of noble act sorts. He saved the girl that almost got hit by a bus.
I don't know that happened.
No, that did happen. That was real.
Okay.
There was another situation of pushing legislation and trying to stop the war. Now Batman can only try to stop people one burglar at a time. Bernie Sanders is trying to stop deaths on a massive scale. I guess I'm asking, why is he not? Like, he doesn't wear a cape, so fair enough. And he doesn't have a cow, so fair enough. But
He's not running out in the middle of the night. I mean, okay, fine. Bernie Sanders is Batman.
I'm just saying they're similar.
Does Bernie Sanders have similar attributes to Batman?
He doesn't have Bruce Wayne's money.
Yes.
So he's not rich. And don't get me wrong, there are things that are different. But I'm just saying, in a general, maybe God's perspective in wide strokes, that there's similarities there.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think you're buying it. I don't need your passive-aggressive patronism, man. Patronizing.
Garden Gnome says, I'm not on board with it because it's absurd. Because Batman is not some savior. Because Bernie is not some savior. I don't know. I just can't make the leap for whatever reason. I just can't get there.
Then why did you say you agreed?
I agree with the comparison that you're trying to make, but I can't just be like Team Bernie Batman. Bernie Man. I
think you're racist because he's old.
Maybe that's it.
He's old.
What else do we have to do?
That was the last one. Bernie Sanders is Batman.
Okay. Are we missing some super chats?
Yeah, let me check before we head out. Mrs. Thomas is feeling lightheaded, so I am going to...
I wrote that down so that it wasn't said out loud.
It's my audience, babe. You said you don't want to lie. Early on, I gave you a dodge. You didn't want to take it.
I need some more medication, I think. Need some more pharmaceuticals. Yeah, we're going to go through and read the...
Mrs. T and JT's families are benefited by Africans and Irish slavery. Are those families that are still at the top?
No. Read that again.
Mrs. T and JT, those families that benefited by African and Irish slavery, are those families that are still at the top economically in this country. Yes, that's true. And by the way, I don't make this argument that all whites were slave owners. That's not where I go with this. And I just make this point that, slavery and those things are interactive. I mean, inextricably linked. Amir Ferrier. Friend made more as a waitress than as a teacher. Oh, God, that's painful. Because understand what that means. That the quality of teachers that are going to be able to be raised in the school system itself. Not to mention the teacher that's teaching your kid not having full access to the things that teacher needs, or having a difficult, vulnerable time and still going in to teach the kid. Is that really, we should care about our kids. And I say that kind of as some level of an absolute. I mean, your kids are creating your society. The next society, at some point, all of us will be dropped dead. Everybody wakes up dead at some point. But the next generation will still be there. How we deal with and how we treat these kids as they're growing up is going to have some determinative factor on what they are like when they get older. There are things, do you realize, when I call like Pitsu like little one or big guy, do you know where that comes from? Mr. Robinson, my chess teacher, going back to 6th grade, he used to call people like little one or bright one and that type of stuff. That literally has come all the way back from when I was a kid to come out. Yeah, like you'd be surprised. There's small things. It's like these things are etched on us, even though we don't necessarily remember the thing that etched it. Kids are important. That's all. Like McDonald's made this habit of trying to get kids between the ages of like 2 and 4, 2 and 6, because they realize that if you get a kid that early, you have the kid for the rest of your life. Essentially with bad habits of eating that garbage. It's people make this argument that having health care or having education is somehow, what do they call it? Oh God, what is the name of they call it, like Social Security, those type of benefits. Not handouts. It's not benefits. That's another word that they use for it as a pejorative. But fact of the matter is, even though we're doing those things for people per se, those things are also being done for the society itself. A society that's healthy, a society where human beings within that society can be self-actualized. If they want to go to school, they can go to school to the degree they want to go to school. You can have an educated society. You can have a society that's healthy. Those things are possible within the context of our society, even as our society is now. I would argue that Sanders is this kind of capitalist corrective, even though he calls himself a socialist. Kind of like an FDR trying to pull back some of the gains that have taken place over the time period. Sanders needs to explain how he's going to do that when all the incentives go against it. But nevertheless, at the very least, it is an astonishing thing to hear him open his mouth and say stuff like going after his speech earlier today. He went after pharma. He put everybody on notice, like pharma, banks, Wall Street, military-industrial company. Like he literally went down the list and essentially said, "Your day's a number. I'm coming for you." And the entire speech was, "I'm putting you on notice. I'm telling you a little bit about my family. I'm putting you on notice again." It was an amazing speech. Like it was barn-burning. But let's see. Bernie isn't sexy like Batman, not a Batman. You don't know, man. You don't know. I'm a slave to my mortality just like you. That is true. There's no way out. When you go in, you know that you're not coming out.
I think we read all the other ones. You want to check Streamlabs?
Yeah.
Oh wait, your gift is now you get to pay taxes. Your gift is now
you get to pay taxes. That's fascinating. I mean, because to some degree he is right, but the idea of taxes going into things that are benefit to the public, but that's not fully the way it's going.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, to some degree it is, but to some degree it's not. You know, you have the richest country on the planet. You have, did you hear in that speech he said 1/5 of the country, like of children, are in poverty? Now think about what that means. If those kids are impressionable at the least of ages, you're making their situation materially worse at the least of times. I strongly suspect you get more bang for your buck as a society if you made sure that the people at the bottom of the economic scale, particularly kids and kids who are going to fill your next society, are intact. Like, it's hard to get across how important that is, and yet that gets thrown to the wayside. I don't know. I'm not going to keep bitching about it. It's just, kids are important. Ultimately, those things are sharp objects.
Oh, I thought you were saying kids, those things. I got you.
Yeah, they're sharp objects. I mean, you know, it's like they're fully ballistic. At some point, you let them go, and, you know. There are habits that I have and behaviors that I've taken that I can pull from my dad even when he wasn't around. Like that, like it's insane when you're like looking at your behavior and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this behavior, I appropriated this from my, this person. I appropriated this behavior from this person. And you can see how those things were etched on you, even though you don't necessarily know when those things were etched on you. It's bizarre, but fascinating nonetheless. Soapbox logo, convention crime. Oh, my. God, that show is going to suck, man. That show is going to suck. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Write that shit in stone, Bob. I will come up here and I will squeeze out a tear just for you. I squeeze out a tear just for you. My wife will be here. She'll be here. She'll be here with me. She's my wife. She has to be here. She's contractually obligated to be here.
That's a lie, but okay. Check Streamlabs. Please. Please, sir.
I'm giving her $3 to be here today.
That's a lie. I want $3 too. When we leave, now that you said it and I have a record of you saying I want my $3 when we leave here. All right.
I give you $3.
So is there more? No, we're up to date on Streamlabs.
All right, guys. This was hour and 50 minutes. That's good. All right, guys. I want to thank you all for showing up to the Soapbox Patron Appreciation episode. I always have fun with these because we get to. It's not as formal as a regular video. Like my regular video, I go through formality. I even though it doesn't look it. I have breathing exercises. It's like. And I'm used to not having anybody in the room when I'm doing my, getting prepped for the show. It's like mouthing exercise, like that type of stuff.
You do that before the show?
Sometimes getting your mouth, wet and all this other stuff and getting ready. Sometimes taking a bong hit. Sometimes smoking a cigarette. But whatever it takes to get you in your headspace to do the news and to do the show. But for this one, it's more, less that way.
It's more or less that way?
Yeah. I like that turn of that phrase. It's more or less that way. Because you can get what I mean from a human standpoint. A computer would be like, what? What does that mean? I don't understand. But a human being gets it. But no, I like these. I mean, they're fun to do. And I like having my wife with me. And so it's like you kind of just vibing off each other when you're doing the show. And for the most part, we're the same in general. You talk a lot more than I do.
That's a lie.
So there's that.
That is a lie. There is another super chat if you want to read that one.
Don't think badly of me, Miss Thomas. Oh, she don't think badly of you. It's just a difference of opinion. That's all. I don't think you do. Do you? You think badly of him?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
him to think badly of him. Did I think badly of a statement? Maybe. But,
well, you disagree.
Or I
with
disagree
the
with the
statement.
statement.
There's a difference.
So.
Nothing good will happen here until we end the wars and cut spending on the 70% defense and 30% for running the country. It's fucking insane. End wars now. GDNPB, I agree with you. It's like if you're spending the majority of your worth on wars and the majority of that budget is black, how do it's like, how do you have a democracy? How do you have a democracy if you don't know what the budget is being spent on? All right, Soapbox logo crying towels. Maybe I could get somebody to design those just in case Sanders loses. But if Sanders wins and he gets through the primary, I want a picture of you voting Sanders.
I told you he can't take a picture in the voting booth.
He can do it. He can just take his phone.
You want Bob to go to jail?
He can do it. Bob can do it. He's a capable man.
Okay, Bob might be a female. Bobetto?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's Robert. I think Bob is short for Robert. But I guess my point is, if I have the Crying Towels logo, I want to vote for Sanders if he makes it through the primary. But God, it's gonna hurt, man. I will sit. I would weep, man. I don't know what other reaction to do. I just come onto the channel and just cry. Yeah. I wouldn't even say anything. I just start the channel with. I wouldn't even start it with my thing. It's just like, just face to the channel. It wouldn't even be a whole body shot. It would just be a head shot.
I won't be here on that particular segment, but especially now, if you're gonna do that.
We're doing that. I just sent this to make your show run long. Luca wants Collins. I took a selfie in a booth when I voted for Trump. No way! Oh, no way! No way! That's funny. That's funny. See, I told you could do it. You just gotta be sly about it. All right, let's call this a day. She needs to get pain meds, and I'm starving. Guys, I really do appreciate you guys coming to the show. Honestly, you guys really essentially allow the show to be the show. People send me stuff all the time, articles and so forth, and I oftentimes run with those articles. It's like my feelers out into the world because I just stay here and do the news, ever vigilant.
Do the news.
Man on the moon, looking at the world. So, but thank you all. You all have a good Sunday and rest of the Sunday, and I will see you guys later. Anything else?
Don't forget to share, like, subscribe.
Well, not this video.
Well, if you're, don't do that.
If you're a patron.
If you're a patron, make sure to log into your Patreon.
If you want to share, like, subscribe, do it. Do it up. Definitely like.
How are they going to share if
subscribe.
it's on Patreon?
Well, the only way they would even know we're saying this is if they're looking at the video.
They could be watching it right now.
That's my point.
Click the share button.
But that's the only way they would know. Like, the only way, just as a flat fact, that they would know that you said that is if they see you saying that.
My brain hurts right now, so I don't know.
Well, I told you you were on, propped up on pharmaceuticals.
Okay. When the video goes down, it'll be available only to patrons. So if you're not a patron, consider being a patron for as little as $1 a month. Today we talked about
potentially more than that, but yes, at least
Bernie on The View, Trump and the nuclear summit, Joe Biden and Pence, the Sanders speech, and is Bernie Sanders Batman? So if you are late to the show, because I saw a couple people who were saying they just got here. So yes, check it out if you're a patron. If not, join us next week live at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard for the next patron appreciation. And if you are a patron, make sure that you submit topic suggestions for next week, because we didn't get any good ones for this week.
In fact, submit it under this video.
Yeah, submit it here.
In fact, we should set it in the beginning of the video.
If you are donating through PayPal or Streamlabs, you can submit your topic suggestions there too for consideration. And yeah, if you're not donating, that's fine. Make sure that you're subscribed for the next
well, no, how would they do that? I guess when they donate, if they want to have a patron, I don't know. That feels weird, because that feels like somebody's paying you for a topic. I don't know. Guys, thank you all, and we'll see you at worst tomorrow, maybe this evening if I'm up and it's spry and just doing the news.
So. You won't see me for a couple of days.
Yeah, she's
going to get my drugs.
Yeah. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Good night.